afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for the final time, for the trading card game at least, to the Oceania International Championships 2018. My name is Ross Gilbert, and for the last time, I am delighted to be joined by the wonderful Kyle Sukovic. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful as always, Ross, and it's hard to believe we're already here. The final TCG match of the weekend here at the Oceania International Championships. Of course, congrats to our winners in the junior and senior divisions, Sebastian and Connor, who've won some excellent matches there to start off with. But here we are. I think this is the main story heading into Championship Sunday. We have one man who is on the verge of perhaps winning 3 international championships in a row, and that is Tord Reklev, a name we've thrown around a lot this weekend. There's only one person left who can stop him, and that is Joe, who is a first-year Masters player who has taken out 2 of the top pros in the top 8 in Azul and Philip. Let's see if he can take down one more.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult task, so this is going to be his biggest challenge yet. Joe here, he made top 32 at the European International Championships this year. He got top 32 in Daytona, and he is going to be playing the Boswell Lycan Rock deck. So, to be perfectly honest, this is a deck we've seen all weekend, and it's going to be, you know, one more trip round for our old friend Boswell.
Yeah, Boswell GX has been one of the stars of this tournament, especially in the Masters division as a premier counter to Zorark GX. We see some accomplishments there from Joe. It's actually his first year in the Masters division. Last year, he actually made top 8 at this Oceania International Championships in the senior division, and he's got a lot of accomplishments in the junior and senior divisions. But first year in Masters, and what a great way to start. Already in the finals, perhaps winning an international championship in your first season.
And a couple of big top 32 there. That's a good first year in Masters, to be perfectly honest with you. Of course, his opponent is a man that does not need very much introduction. We were talking about him right back at the beginning of this stream today. It is Tord Reklev, the Norwegian man who, well, he won the European International Championships. He won the North American International Championships. He was a runner-up in Bremen. He got top 32 at the World Championships. And you're going to have to take my word for it when I say that does not even begin to reflect the accomplishments he's had in 10 years or so of playing this game.
Yeah, and perhaps also remarkable about this run is he's been sick all weekend. He's been coughing up a storm. He's been just physically ill, and even with that limitation, he's been able to, concentrate and focus enough to win pretty much all of his matches this weekend. It's just been incredible to watch him go on another spectacular run, and the question's got to be, can he be stopped?
And, I mean, judging by recent international championships, no would probably be the safe answer. Of course, Joe is no slouch in this tournament. He knocked out Philip Schultz in top 4, and it must be mentioned that both of these players played this matchup in top 4. We saw Tord take down Boswell Lycan Rock in top 4. We saw Joe take down Gardevoir Zoroark in top 4. So both of these players have practiced this matchup yesterday and come through against a really top level opponent. So I don't know if we can really say there's a favorite in this game in terms of the decks, because both of these players got to be feeling confident.
I would think so. And when we've interviewed Tord a couple times, he said he does think this matchup is close to 50-50, and that would pretty much explain it. One side of the matchup won in one top 4 match. Tord won his side of the matchup in the other top 4 match, so looks like we have one more 50-50 matchup to decide the international champion here. It's been interesting to see kind of a pattern forming in these last 3 international championships. It's been Tord against a player from America each time. Of course, his first victim was John Kettler. Zachary Kreckler fell in Europe, and now Joe is the 3rd American player attempting to stop Tord from winning in the finals here. Will Joe be the one to finally stop the streak, or will Tord take down one more American player en route to his 3rd consecutive international championship?
So we do see the coin flip there, but we don't actually know who won the coin flip. We'll find that one out fairly shortly. And, I mean, the thing is, if Tord can go and get 3 of these in a row, the interesting thing is going to be that, will we ever see that again? I mean, we didn't expect to see a 3-time winner in the first 6 tournaments, but will we ever see anyone win 3 in a row if Tord does this? And I think there's a decent chance the answer's no, although he does start off with no basic in his hand, and that is what we call a mulligan.
Yeah, so already a good start for Joe. And, I was talking to some people before the match, and Joe is not intimidated by Tord. He did grow up in the Midwest. I've known him and his family for a long time. He grew up around players like Jason Kozinski, some of the all-time greats. And it's just another game of Pokemon. Some people sit down against Tord and they get extremely nervous. They know his accomplishments. They know he's great, but I don't think that's going to get to Joe. He's already taken down 2 of the top pros in the top 8 and the top 4, and this is just another game of Pokemon for him. If he wins, he's international champion, and we'll see if he can pull it off.
Yeah, you think if he was going to get intimidated, that would probably happen in top 8. Okay, well, maybe it would happen in top 4. By now, the only thing that should be going through either of these players' mind is, I'm clearly the best player here. Time for me to win and take home the international championship. And it does look like Tord's got at least 1 basics there. We do see a routes in his hand, and I think there might be a Zorua there as well. And I think it's almost time to find out what they've prized. So we're going to see Joe put his out first. The Carbink break, single max elixir, strong energy there. Nothing in multiples. He does prize his Remoraid, but he plays 2 of them, so we're going to be okay.
And for Tord, looks like we do have 1 Mallow and 2 of his 3 Tapu Lele GX, so that's potentially relevant. But here we go, handshake, and we are off here in the finals of the Oceania International Championships. Joe Rudiger against Tord Reklev. If you're out there, if you're rooting for Joe, let's hear it in the audience. And get on Twitter, use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Let us know who you think is going to win. If you're rooting for Joe, make some noise. If you're rooting for Tord, make some noise.
Oh, judging by the crowd reaction there, Tord is a little bit of a crowd favorite here. There was a little bit of a bigger cheer there. Of course, he starts off with a route. He is playing this Ultra Ball here. Has to get rid of a Puzzle of Time, which is less than ideal, and he's actually discarded a Zorua as well here. But I think his theory is, well, if I can get this Tapu Lele, get myself a Bridget, I can get more Zorua. There's only so much space on my bench. Good news is, we know none are prized. Always a risky strategy early game, because what if you have multiple Zorua prized?
Yeah, and Tord is beginning this game just like every game I think I've seen him play this weekend. It is remarkable. Every game he's been able to start his first turn, getting that Bridget out on the first turn, and it's so crucial for these evolution decks to play that Bridget on the first turn. This time having to use Tapu Lele GX's Wonder Tag to find it, but still, he's going to start off getting those 3 basic Pokemon down onto the bench, and so far he has not missed a beat.
No surprise here. He's got 2 Zorua and a routes he's going for. He'll have 2 of each. Of course, one thing we've seen from these Buzzwole decks over and over again this weekend, that turn 1 Guzma to KO a Zorua on the bench and really limit those training options. That's what Tord's going to be worried about here, because you need those trades to get rolling. So Joe, we've seen this so many times, he's probably going to be looking for that Guzma turn 1, really try and get rid of those Zoruas, because that is the only way you can stop Tord drawing what he's going to want to draw.
Yeah, at the very least, you need to get a turn 1 attack off if you're Joe. Even like a strong energy with Regirock EX on the bench to knock out Ralt's turn 1. You need to have some kind of aggression with the Buzzwole GX deck. If Tord is left unchecked and he's able to evolve all of his Pokemon, he's going to have the stronger late game power compared to Joe's deck, which is really based in aggression in the early game. So a lot of this is going to come down to how quickly Joe can knock out Tord's Pokemon, how quickly Tord can evolve his own, and those crucial max elixirs on Joe's side.
Yeah, Max Elixir has been a real theme this weekend in terms of whether you can hit it. Joe is able to get his Brooklet Hill, though. That's going to allow him to search for a basic water or fighting Pokemon. Largely he plays fighting Pokemon, but he might go for that Remoraid. Looks like he's facing down that Rockruff. And really here, it's just going to be about getting some Pokemon out. Benching a Rockruff, maybe a Regirock, maybe a Remoraid. Trying to get that energy there. Of course, strong energy Regirock. If he doesn't play a Guzma, that's got to be it. But he does already have a Guzma in hand. But of course, he's going to need a benched Buzzwole if he's actually going to pull this play off.
Yeah, I don't think Joe's going to go for the turn 1 Guzma. If he was going to do that, he would have just played Guzma before benching anything and then attached and used Jet Punch. I think Joe, even though he's probably wants to get some aggression early, he also wants to play some kind of card to draw cards at the beginning, some kind of Professor Sycamore or N. We have seen countless times players have gone for the turn 1 Guzma and knock out Zorua, but really it's better to draw cards on your first turn. You really want to find cards like Max Elixir, get an energy onto your Rockruff on the bench to threaten a dangerous Rogue GX with your Lycanroc.
Oh, absolutely. That is how you want to start this game. Of course, we do see a basic fighting there coming down from Joe. That means there isn't going to be a turn 1 here. If there's no Guzma and there's no strong energy, there is no turn 1 KO. It does mean he's going to be spreading damage around the board, and that is good. It means he's putting pressure on towards Pokemon, and even something like 30 damage onto a Zorua. It means later in the game, a Jet Punch with a strong energy choice band Regirock will actually get a KO on that Zoroark. So we've seen a few times this weekend just getting 30 damage on that Zorua early game could pay off big when we get later on into the game.
Yeah, that's the route most players have taken in this tournament, and we see Joe just go for the quick Jet Punch. He actually has Max Elixir in hand. It looks like he opted not to play it, and you predicted he would go for Zorua. Joe actually opting to go for both Ralts instead, and I wondered if that was actually the correct way to go. Since you know Tord's deck doesn't play any Curlia, completely depends on rare candy to get those stage 2 Pokemon in play. You can put the most pressure on this deck if you go after both Ralts. If Tord doesn't find rare candy plus a stage 2, both of those Ralts can get knocked out, and it can eliminate those Gardevoir GX or Gallade from coming into play altogether.
Absolutely. We actually had the same discussion yesterday where the player actually went to go for the Zorua and then was unable to get the KO on the Ralts, which could have been a really big KO. No Curlia, free rare candy, and it's one of those decisions we see in this game a lot where if Tord doesn't get an evolution here, Joe's going to get a double KO on the Ralts and it's going to be a phenomenal play. If Tord's able to now evolve both of these Ralts, which is not terribly likely, then of course that damage is going to be a lot less significant. So it's a lot about making these choices, and I like where Joe's going here because although we've seen turn 2 evolutions from Tord a couple times on stream, you've got to think it's the less likely of the options to happen.
Yeah, but Tord never misses a beat, Ross. I think that's the lesson we're going to learn this weekend. We see Mallow in hand as well as the Ultra Ball, so he can Ultra Ball for a second Zoroark GX, play the Mallow, search up a rare candy and a stage 2, and I think yet again we're going to see Tord get a turn 2 stage 2 as well as multiple Zoroark GX in play. We've seen this throughout the weekend. It's remarkable he's been able to do it so consistently, but this is part of the power of this deck. When you do get this start, it is so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, these stage 2s coming out too early. We've heard from Robin and from Tord this weekend, and both of them have said the same thing. This is not really a deck that relies on Gardevoir and Gallade, at least in the early game. This is a Zoroark deck that has these options for the stage 2s as you go through the game. They expect to be using Mallow to go and get these Pokemon out, and they expect to not be doing it on the second turn of the game. It just turns out that they're such good deck builders, they've made a deck which actually has the option to do this, and now we do see that a Sensitive Blade is absolutely on the cards for this turn.
Yeah, and that's not what Joe wants to see here.
He's got Candy Gardevoir in hand as well.
This is the premonition, so that's not his hand.
Okay, I was going to say, that would be way too much straight away.
That wouldn't be the first time he's done that, but
Does he have any trade left?
No, he's used all of his trades. We're just gonna see turn 2 Gallade, Sensitive Blade for 130 damage, as well as 2 Zoroark GX on the bench. Yeah. This is not a great spot for Joe, but I think still okay. The fact that you can still knock out the Ralts on the bench and prevent a Gardevoir GX from coming into play is fine. This Gallade is going to get a positive trade for Tord. It's just going to happen at this point. The only way you can really stop it is to get that Sudowoodo, like Joe is eyeing up with the Brooklet Hill. If you get Max Elixir and an Energy and then retreat into it, you can use Watch and Learn to copy Sensitive Blade and get the knockout on Gallade. But you have to wonder if that's even the right thing to do. You can deal with the Gallade eventually. A Gardevoir is going to be a little tougher.
Yeah, Gardevoir's got more HP. It trades super favorably with all of those Pokemon with his Infinite Force attack. And And it's an awkward situation here because you're right. Using Jet Punch seems like the right play because then Jet Punch gets rid of that Ralts on the bench. But then Sensitive Blade just KOs the Buzzwole, and then you've basically traded 2 prizes for 1 prize and 60 damage on a Gallade. And I love what Tord's done here. He's almost inviting Joe to take that KO on the Ralts with Jet Punch, saying, you know what? I still think I'm in a good position even if you do that. So I don't want to see my Ralts go, but I'll let you have it.
And we see Joe not even opting to go for the Max Elixir onto Sudowoodo, puts it on the Rockruff, and he's going to go for the Bloodthirsty Eye. He's going to target down a Zoroark GX and get some big damage onto that Zoroark GX while knocking out the Ralts. So this is another way to go about it. You can almost just ignore the Gallade, knowing that it's not going to knock out any of your GXs in one attack. So on some level, if you're getting multiple prize cards in a turn at some point, you don't really care that Gallade is attacking you all the time.
And this Jet Punch onto a Zoroark is a huge difference. On a Gallade, it does 30 damage. On a Zoroark, it does 120. That's 4 times as much because you can use Choice Band against a GX Pokemon. That increases the damage by 30. Then you build in the weakness, and it really turns into an incredibly powerful attack. And yeah, I think the Bloodthirsty Eyes and the Zoroark makes quite the big difference here.
So we do see Joe getting out that Octillery, one of the important cards for this Buzzwole deck. The Zoroark deck, of course, has Zoroark GX's trade ability to draw extra cards. Octillery is crucial for the Buzzwole deck to just refill its hand with Abyssal Hand. Find those crucial cards like Max Elixir, Strong Energy, Choice Band at all the right times, and potentially even things like Regirock EX at crucial moments. You just need to find some way to draw additional cards so that you can find exactly what you need.
Good news is Joe did get 3 additional cards there. Bad news is 2 of them were Brooklet Hill. Not the best draws ever, but we do see the KO on the Ralts. Joe does go up by a prize there, and he's put 120 damage on the Zoroark. That Zoroark is not going to be lasting very long as we go through this game. It's now in range to be KO'd by an awful lot of things, including just a second Jet Punch. So Tord has still got the 2 Zoroark, he's still got the Gallade, but now he's going to have to try and invest some resources into benching stuff like Ralts if he's got any hope of having a Gardevoir later on in the game.
So Tord will use his first trade for the turn. There's any number of things he can do on this turn. Simple Float Stone, retreat into Gallade can knock out the Buzzwole GX. If he had a Max Potion, he could heal off the damage and then just attach Double Colorless and attack with Riotous Beating for a knockout. Buzzwole that already has 130 damage on it is not very difficult to finish off. It's just, how does Tord want to do it? He's got so many resources at his disposal, especially with Gallade's Premonition kind of filtering his draws, rearranging his top 5.
Yeah, I mean, literally anything on his field now can KO that Buzzwole with just a double colorless energy. It really is up to Tord to decide what does he want to leave in the active at the end of this turn after taking the KO, because that is what's going to be taking that hit from Joe's Pokemon in the following turn. And I like Joe's setup here. You know, he's got that Lycanroc with the energy. As long as he can get an energy onto that Sudowoodo at some point, he's really going to be opening up options. And as good as an attacker as Zoroark is, it is a liability in this matchup at times with that fighting weakness. And we saw in Tord's top 4 game, it was a combination of these stage 2s and the Zoroark that really led to the victory. Now, one good card, of course, here, Max Potion, heals off all that damage from Zoroark, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to KO it now.
Yeah, one thing I don't think we mentioned was Joe actually did not attach an energy card for the turn. He got the Max Elixir, but was unable to attach an energy from his hand on the previous turn. Energy drops are crucial for this Buzzwole Lycanroc deck. To get up to your big attacks, you need 2-3 energy on your Pokemon, and you don't have things like Gardevoir GX's Secret Spring ability to just attach an extra energy. You need to be playing energy every turn. One of the downfalls of the deck is when you just miss energy attachments, miss Max Elixir, and you end up just being a couple energy short of your big attacks.
Yeah, that is always bad when you're in that position. Tord does get that extra Ralts on the bench now, and hopefully he's going to be able to find that rare candy Gardevoir in a future turn. And this is one of the reasons he really needs to protect his Zoroark. Zoroark's got that trade ability. We've already seen it used with Mallow to get the Gallade, and he can use it with Mallow to get the Gardevoir in the future. Of course, Parallel City here is going to be quite nice for him, because Joe's going to be forced to discard one of his Pokemon.
Yeah, I think pretty easy choice for Joe here. Going to discard one of his Buzzwole GX. He does have at least one more in his deck at some point. So he does not want to lose the Octillery or the Sudowoodo either, but we see Tord with a big Guzma going after this Lycanroc GX. He wants to make sure he can soften it up. Now all of Joe's big attackers have a bunch of damage on them, and that just means they're never going to be able to attack in consecutive turns. Tord following the philosophy that's been very, very successful this weekend, just go after the thing that has the energy.
Absolutely. Try and make sure that even if it's getting a KO, it's going down right away afterwards, and it's not being a prolonged threat throughout the game. Looking at Joe's list, there's no max potion, there's no ace roller, there's no healing. Joe's is one of those aggressive decks that basically says, I am going to get KOs before you do. I don't need to worry about healing my Pokemon, because if that kind of game develops, my deck is not built for that. That means that when Tord puts 130 on the Buzzwole, 130 on the Lycanroc, it's going to stay there throughout the game. They're now both in range of a Riotous beating from a Zoroark, or maybe even, Tapu Lele coming in with just a double colorless energy, or an Infinite Force with Gardevoir for 1 or 2 energy. Tord is putting himself in a position where he can take KOs with almost whatever he feels like.
Yeah, Joe has to just settle for playing an N on this turn for 5 cards. I think ideally he's going to want to power up Sudowoodo and go for the Watch and Learn knockout. If he misses here, he doesn't have any great attacks. He can Jet Punch with his Buzzwole GX or use up his GX attack with Lycanroc GX to take down the Gallade, but this is not looking like a great follow-up to his pretty good previous turn, doing a bunch of damage, knocking out Ralts. Here he's in a bit more of an awkward position, even though he has Octillery's Abyssal Hand, just not drawing the right combination of cards here.
No, that Gallade of 150 HP is a super awkward Pokemon to try and KO, and it only gives up 1 prize. Using a Sudowoodo's Watch and Learn is a good way to take it out if you've got the requisite energy. I mean, using Dangerous Rogue to take 1 prize on a Gallade, yeah, you're taking out a big attacking threat, but it's such an investment when you really want to use Dangerous Rogue to take a big 2-prize KO that's going to really swing the game. But as always, it comes down to what cards you've got and the options you can have with said cards.
So Joe here, he's going to play a Tapu Lele GX to the bench. It's kind of off camera at the top. Grabs a Professor Sycamore. I think he just wants to find a Pokemon he can retreat into to take a hit from the Gallade. And he's decided that Tapu Lele GX is going to be that Pokemon in this situation. There's nothing he really wants to get knocked out here. He doesn't want to give up a 2-prize knockout. And he can afford to take a hit with the Tapu Lele. He also wants a Rockruff on the bench to evolve into Lycanroc GX for a future turn. So I think we're just going to see him send out that Tapu Lele GX and pass the turn and hope that Tord doesn't have Guzma.
Yeah, I think that's a good play here. Dangerous Rogue is too much of an investment. Sudowoodo doesn't have the 2 energy, so I get this entirely. Now, we do see a trade coming down from Tord here. He's grabbing himself a couple of extra cards. Of course, a Guzma here would be absolutely huge. Would be nice, of course, to get a Gardevoir as well. And do we see a Professor Sycamore there?
Looks like he's using Premonition with Gallade.
Yeah, it's all a little bit off camera there for a second. But yeah, Premonition coming down allows you to rearrange the top 5 cards of your deck, which of course then kind of fixes what you're going to be drawing with those trade abilities.
Yeah, and we do see Tord's hand is pretty loaded, as it always tends to be. Guzma, double colorless energy in hand, even the Mew EX that can be used later on in the game to knock out Buzzwole GX. Tord so far just has access to everything. The only thing I have not seen is rare candy for his Gardevoir GX. And we saw in his top 5 cards, there were no rare candy. So he's going to use the Brooklet Hill and actually reshuffle his deck so that he can have a chance to draw rare candy off of these 2 cards from the second trade, I think.
That is always a nice one, just getting that cheeky reshuffle with Brooklet Hill, and it's a really great play. Premonition, don't want any of those cards. Great, I'll use Brooklet Hill, reshuffle my deck, and then I get a new chance, and he grabs an Evo Soda and a card which I didn't see because it came across very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it was rare candy. I'm sure we'll see if it was. We'll see a Gardevoir GX come into play. But maybe Tord has missed the rare candy in this situation. He does have Guzma, though, so he will be able to take a knockout on this turn. I would think he's going to go after the Lycanroc GX. Dangerous Rogue GX is his biggest threat. Buzzwole GX can be finished off at a later point, but might as well go for the 2-prize knockout here, take out the biggest attacker Joe has, and go down to 4 prize cards here.
Yeah, and Buzzwole's going to need 2 more energy before it gets up to things like Absorption GX and like Knuckle Impact. You called it absolutely, Kyle. Here comes the Zoroark. But of course, it ain't going to stay there very long. It's going to retreat into the Gallade, and then we're going to see a KO on that Lycanroc. Just a little bit of a look from the judge there, you know, just seeing that Gallade, seeing what it does. And this Lycanroc's going to be going down here, but actually to a Tapu Lele, like this play, because of course, it's a nice undamaged Pokemon, not being hit for weakness, and that Gallade is going to be useful in the future.
Yeah, we've seen Tor do this quite a bit over the course of the weekend, using Tapu Lele GX pretty aggressively. Sometimes you forget Energy Drive is a good attack, and then you go, oh, if I put double colorless Energy Choice Band, it's a knockout. And Tapu Lele GX is actually a pretty fine attacker against Buzzwole decks. Buzzwole doesn't do a great job trading with it until it gets up to 3 energy. You typically have to burn your GX attack with Lycanroc GX to knock it out. Sudowoodo's Watch and Learn, not particularly effective unless there's a bunch of energy. So Tor just taking any opening he can. A lot of players would have said, no, I'm going to use Gallade because it only gives up 1 prize card. Tord saying, no, I'm going to use Tapu Lele GX because it's not going to get knocked out.
And the Watch and Learn is, of course, a big thing. Watch and Learn with the Sensitive Blade would have KO'd the Gallade. It isn't going to KO the Tapu Lele, so now Joe's in a position where he's sitting there going, well, I'm going to need another 2 energy on a Buzzwole to get a KO here, else he's going to be working on a 2-hit KO. He's down by a prize. There's a heavily damaged Buzzwole, and let's not forget, Tord plays Mew EX, so at some point this game, Tord could have a very easy KO using that Mew EX in conjunction with a Guzma. And Tord's route to victory, very well mapped out here as Joe plays his Professor Sycamore.
Yeah, Joe had to Sycamore away a lot of cards there, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest max elixirs of the game. Can he get an extra energy into play to power up one of his big attacks and knock out this Tapu Lele GX? Looks like he's actually going to put the energy onto the Sudowoodo and perhaps go for a big Watch and Learn. They would take quite a few energy, but between Strong Energy and Choice Band, he might be able to copy Energy Drive for a knockout.
That would take a few resources. It'd be huge if he could actually pull it off here. I mean, Joe, he is in an awkward position. I mean, he's staring down, and whereas Joe's got Pokemon on his side of the field that have heavily damaged, Tord doesn't really at the moment. We do see a max elixir come down, and there's a strong energy there, but you cannot accelerate a strong energy using max elixir, so that goes straight back into his deck, and that could have been a big advantage for Joe. Unfortunately, it's something he's not able to get right now.
Yeah, and I have to wonder what Joe's going to go for here. If he has Lycanroc GX in hand, he can use Bloodthirsty Eyes and go after, well, nothing really. He could go after the Ralts and Energy Drive for the knockout. Remember that Energy Drive does not apply weakness or resistance, so even a Watch and Learn against Zoroark GX would just do straight damage, no weakness. So not great targets right now for the Sudowoodo. We'll see what Joe wants to do. He might just have to settle for something like a Jet Punch.
Yeah, which is not what he wants at this stage of the game when Tord's ahead, firstly in terms of prizes, secondly in terms of damage, thirdly I would argue in terms of board position. You really need to be getting some big splashy play, something that takes a big KO or really hurts your opponent's board position. And what we actually see here is just very, very little Watch and Learn that won't take a KO, Jet Punch for a bit of damage. It's really not what Joe's looking for, but we do see a Bloodthirsty Eyes on the routes, and at least Joe's taking a prize here.
Yeah, you can see Joe's strategy pretty clearly in this match so far. Go after Ralts before it can evolve. I think he still has an energy attachment for the turn as well. Looks like, well, maybe not. Just uses Watch and Learn to knock out the Ralts. Energy Drive is going to be a total of 60, so he goes down to an even number of prize cards, which means he only has to knock out 2 Pokemon GX from here. And if Tord knocks out this Sudowoodo, it really doesn't advance his path to victory at all. He goes down to 3 prize cards instead of 2. So using Sudowoodo at the appropriate time is pretty important here, but you got to wonder, where does Joe get the next knockouts without any extra energy on his bench? Yeah, and Joe just concedes.
Tord takes game 1 here. Joe realizes he's not in a great position. He wants to keep the maximum amount of time for games 2 and 3, assuming there is a game 3, of course. And Tord goes up 1-0, and it was just another fairly straightforward Tord Reklev game. He got his Zoroark out, he got an early Gallade using Mallow, which is what his deck wants to do, and even though Joe was able to take out those routes on the bench, he looks at the board and goes, I don't know where the rest of my prizes are coming from.
Yeah, it's happened time and time again. I mean, I've always been wondering, what happens in the matchup if Tord doesn't get turn 1 Bridget, if Tord doesn't get turn 2 a bunch of Zoroark GX and Rare Candy Stage 2, but we have yet to see it, really. It's just every time he's had exactly what he needed. And yeah, it turns out getting a bunch of cards in your hand, getting Gardevoir GX out, and getting Gallade out is enough to get a victory against most decks. And we've just seen these Buzzwole decks be kind of 1 or 2 energy attachments behind every game, and they just haven't been able to keep up with the onslaught of this creation that Tord and his team have brought to this tournament.
And of course, we did mention one of the energy attachments in the early game from Joe was missed. Of course, that Bloodthirsty Eyes on the routes on the one hand got the KO, but unlike some of these Buzzwole decks, Joe doesn't seem to be playing Energy Switch or Multi-Switch, which means the only way he can accelerate energy is Max Elixir, but that only accelerates the basic Pokemon. As soon as Joe evolves into his Lycanroc on the bench, it means 2 manual attachments in order to use something like a Dangerous Rogue GX, which is something he just wasn't in a position to do. And as much as it really hurts to concede in game 1 of an international championship, he's given himself a lot of time for the next 2 games. It took pretty much exactly 1/3. It was 25 minutes of a 75-minute match. So that means he's going to have time for a game 2 and hopefully a game 3 so that he can make his comeback.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for conserving your mental energy in this situation. Can you play that game out and maybe win the game 1% of the time? Sure. But is it worth it? It's been such a long tournament. You've been through so many rounds. Mental fatigue is something you have to keep in mind. So at some point, you just look at the board and say, this isn't worth playing. Let's get to some games where I have a better chance, save some time, but perhaps more importantly, just save some energy.
Absolutely. We did see a mulligan from Joe there. Good news is, of course, he is going to be going first this game, so he's going to get that extra energy attachment on turn 1, an extra turn of trying to use Max Elixirs. It means that he's going to have 2 turns before Tord's able to evolve and really get his strategy going. If he can hit a couple of Max Elixirs, get a couple of key KOs, that could swing the game. And of course, one thing we did see, he didn't have the turn 1 KO last game. He didn't have either the fighting energy or the strong energy combined with the red Guzma strong fighting energy, and that means that he wasn't able to jump ahead in prizes, and he wasn't able to really limit towards options like he would like to. See his prizes going out here, couple of energy and a strong and a Max Elixir.
We crucially do see the Max Potion in Tord's prize cards. I've seen that be very important in this matchup, and having it in his prize cards could be a big difference. Not as big as having that Mew EX in there, but Max Potion has been a major player for him this weekend.
And we do see Joe here. He is taking the first turn. He's got a Rockruff in the active. He's got a Buzzwole on the bench. And of course, and a second Rockruff now. One of the things we often see these Buzzwole players doing, putting something else in the active to set themselves up for a turn 2 Guzma. But we do not see a supporter from Joe. He just attaches an energy and passes.
That's not how you want to start game number 2 here in the finals. We'll see if he's got anything else lined up for next turn. He does have an Ultra Ball in hand, so maybe he was just fine with attaching the energy that turn. That's really all you can ask for on your first turn with this deck. Tord has nothing. Wow. No Bridget from Tord. He just plays down some Pokemon and passes the turn.
And could this be the turn where we see the Guzma? He could take out that only Zorua here while doing 30 damage to a route. We see Joe furiously checking through his deck. He's got a lot of options here. He could draw some extra cards. We know he's not going to be playing an N. That is the one thing I feel very confident about. It is a Professor Sycamore, just like the last game. He wants to get damage on the field. He's working on a double KO. But when your opponent has nothing, then it's far more likely you're going to actually get that double KO, unless Tord's doing that thing where he's got Rare Candy, Gardevoir, Zoroark, Sycamore in his hand, which we have seen from players before.
Yeah, so if you're Joe, I think you might switch gears and go after the Zorua, knowing that if you can cut off trade from Tord, perhaps he just doesn't have any resources in his hand. And we do see the bloodthirsty eyes from Lycanroc GX. Joe needs to find an energy or a float stone off of this Professor Sycamore. If he can, he's going to Jet Punch, knock out Zorua, and put Tord under a lot of pressure.
And I did see a float stone there, and I did see a strong energy, regular energy, choice band. He's got options, and an Octillery there as well, which is going to help him out with that Abyssal Hand. And of course, you don't need to search for a Guzma to try and get rid of that Zorua. If you've got Bloodthirsty Eyes, it does the same thing. And then an energy on Lycanroc as well. This is a great start from Joe.
Yeah, this game is looking much different from the first one. We will see a Jet Punch knockout on the second turn of the game for Joe. And does Tord have any supporter card in his hand or any way to evolve his Pokemon? He did have a Zoroark GX in hand, so knocking out that Zorua was huge.
Oh, he does get a Bridget here. Of course, Joe, with a strong energy and a Regirock and a Guzma, could actually have won next turn by knocking out both those Rolts. Still a play we could see, but Tord with his Bridget here, absolutely vital. Of course, I think fair to say he would rather have had this last turn.
Yeah, I guess so, but it's better than not drawing it.
Oh, I'll give you that one, sir.
All right, so it looks like 3 Zorua going to be the choice for Tord as he's going to try to set up this Pokemon here. The big key this turn, does he have Rare Candy and a Stage 2 in hand? Otherwise, Joe is definitely going to take 1 prize card next turn, potentially 2. This is one of the biggest moments of this second game.
Yeah, if Joe is able to pull off a double KO on those Rolts, which is possible, especially with that second Rockruff on the bench for a potential second Bloodthirsty Eyes, then that's going to leave Tord with only Zoruas on the bench while he's down 2 prizes. So this is going to be big, and he passes. No energy, no evolution, just straight away passing. Can Joe take advantage of this?
And the question is, what does Joe go for here? If he can get strong energy Regirock, he could knock out both Ralts. And we see the Brooklet Hill. Will he find the Regirock and go for it? Looks like yes.
He's got the strong energy in hand already, so all he's going to need is either a Guzma or a Lycanroc. We're going to see a double KO on the Ralts. You've got to assume it's going to be a double KO on the Ralts. And then we're going to be seeing 3 prizes from Joe in 2 turns, while Tord sits there with nothing but Zoroarks, and they're weak to fighting.
And this is what can happen in this matchup if you ever stumble playing one of these Zoroark decks. Buzzwole GX just puts on so much pressure in the early game and gets out to such a massive prize lead that sometimes they can just finish off the game making unfavorable trades as the game progresses. We do see Joe misses the Max Elixir there, which could be big down the line, but he's going to jump out to a big lead here and force Tord to play a flawless game the rest of the way.
It really does just remain to be seen. Does he have a Guzma or a Lycanroc just to really finish this off and get rid of both of those Rolts? Now, he hasn't played his supporter for the turn, I don't believe here. Oh, there is the Lycanroc. He's got it in hand. So now we do see an Abyssal Hand, and we are definitely going to see a monumental free prize turn from Joe here. And there we go. Both those Rolts go down. That's a very quick 3 prizes from Joe.
Yeah, he is down to 3 prize cards already, and Tord immediately responds with 3 Zoroark GX.
Boy, that is about the most Tord thing ever.
All right, well, that is one way to get back into the game. There are some crucial cards Tord can get here to really come back. You know, he is pretty far behind at this point, but if he can find perhaps Mew EX and double colorless energy, he can get a knockout on the Buzzwole GX. Perhaps just something as simple as he actually drew Rare Candy for the turn as well.
He had the Candy Gardevoir in hand. That makes Joe's play that much better.
Yeah, and if he can find Enhanced Hammer, he can slow down the Buzzwole GX as well. But he's got to find something here. So far, nothing great in his hand. These trades have to be big.
And it just doesn't seem like he's drawing what he needs. He's got a Rouse. Now, he does have a Tapu Lele.
Well, that's pretty big. Here comes Mallow. And we are going to see that Mew EX come into play. He puts the Mew and the Float Stone on top. We're going to see Tord punch back right away.
Yes, and of course the Mew also very important because now, actually no, sorry, he already had 4 Pokemon in play. So we're going to see a Riotous beating for 200 here.
A lot.
And yeah, it's going to do enough damage, so to speak. So this Mew coming down as the 5th Pokemon means that Riotous Beating will do 100. Double with weakness is 200. That's what you need to KO this Buzzwole. And we saw he's already got the double colorless energy in hand. So this game far from over.
Yeah, I still think Joe is far in the lead in this game with that energy on the Lycanroc GX already. But this is what Tord needed to give himself a chance in this second game. Take 2 prize cards, take the knockout, take down that Buzzwole GX that had the 2 energy on it. Now it's going to be on Joe. He just really needs energy cards and Guzma to close out the game. If he can Dangerous Rogue GX, take a knockout this turn, and then attach Guzma, knockout one of the Zoroark GX with Claw Slash, that'll be it.
It's going to be very difficult for Tord to get a one-hit KO on something like a Lycanroc. So 1 energy here for a Dangerous Rogue, and then a 2nd energy with a Guzma for a Claw Slash on the Zoroark will, finish out this game. That was a great turn from Tord, but you do have to start wondering whether it was maybe just, 1 turn too late. Now we do see an Ultra Ball coming down from Joe here, and if he's going for another Buzzwole, then he's really got to KO that Mew, because otherwise it's a real liability.
Yeah, and one crucial thing here, Joe played a basic fighting energy onto that Lycanroc GX. He did not play a strong energy, so there's no opportunity for Tord to play Enhanced Hammer on the next turn to prevent that Claw Slash. This has been excellent play from Joe in the second game. He is well on his way to a victory. We'll see if he can find a way to close it out.
And his route to victory with that Lycanroc seems fairly straightforward as it happens. So we do see a choice ban, and we do see a Buzzwole going down on the bench there. So he really does need to take out this Mew this turn to prevent another easy KO on the Guzma with the Mew. And we see Abyssal Hand there getting himself some extra cards, and another Ultra Ball coming down.
Yeah,
Joe...
This is extremely important. Joe has been playing Ultra Balls and discarding cards that are just worthless at this point. He wants to make sure he can thin out cards in his deck so that he can improve his odds to draw Guzma on the next turn. He's expecting Tord to play an N on the following turn, and he just wants to get rid of as many cards as he can to make sure he draws the game-winning cards next turn, Guzma and an energy.
Absolutely. He's got Abyssal Hand on that Octillery, but you're still only going to be drawing a couple of cards. Always better to have as few cards in hand, in deck, as you can in the late game. There we see the Dangerous Rogue. Joe goes down to a single prize remaining, and at this stage, Tord has got a big comeback if he's going to have to, to take out this game. But how do you even approach taking down this Lycanroc at the moment? Because even something like a Gardevoir is going to need 5 in combination of energy and Choice Band. That isn't possible this turn.
Yeah, there's no way Tord can knock out the Lycanroc this turn. He's going to have to try to 2-hit knockout and try to take down the only Pokemon that Joe has with energy over the next 2 turns. The problem is he needs to find an attacker that can actually take a hit from Claw Slash. Tapu Lele GX isn't even on the table because Strong Energy in conjunction with Choice Band and Regirock gets to 170 and knocks out Tapu Lele GX. So he needs to find something like this Gardevoir GX, just to find something with enough HP to deal some damage and withstand an attack. Tord doing everything he can here. Will it be enough?
Oh, and we see the Enter 1 as well, which is going to be absolutely crucial. Of course, there is an Abyssal Hand. Well, he gets the end. We presume he's going to play it in a moment. He's doing everything he can. Even with Abyssal Hand, it still is just reducing the opportunity for your opponents. We do see that end coming down now. Tord's getting 4 cards. Joe's getting 1. And you've still got to think this game is heavily in Joe's favor, but you've got to love watching a pro like Tord do absolutely every tiny little thing he can to try and eke out this game too.
So this is a crucial moment in the game. Tord's going to start his comeback here, and really he's going to need to find a Fairy Energy to start, otherwise he can't attack with this Gardevoir GX. And he only plays 4 in his deck, so it's not guaranteed he finds one. I think he does still have some trades available, so he can draw probably 6 extra cards here. But does he find a Fairy Energy to even attack? So far, the answer is no.
No, he really doesn't. Now, he does have a Rare Candy Gallade in hand, which is quite interesting. But, of course, no routes on the bench makes it somewhat of a moot point, but just showing how his deck can get those cards out. Now, He is searching himself out another Zoroark here. He's not going to play it. There's no Zorua on the bench. But I think he really wants to just look through his deck, see how many fairy energy he's got, really make those calculations for how likely he is to be drawing into these when he uses these last couple of trades.
Yeah, all 4 are in the deck. I saw it as he was skimming through. So trade number 2 does not find a fairy energy. He does have 1 Puzzle of Time in hand he could play to perhaps dig 1 card deeper, or he might just decide to trade and draw the top 2. I don't know. If he misses fairy energy here, this is very bad for Tord. That would almost close the game up for Joe.
Yeah, that would mean he'd have to just put the Gardevoir active, but then, of course, he wouldn't actually be doing any damage, so then the Gardevoir would take a hit. Everything on his field would be a Claw Slash away from being KO'd. I did like the Field Blower from Tord, get rid of the Choice Band, mean that Joe's got one more thing to do. He actually just retreats into the Tapu Lele. Strong Energy Choice Band will be enough here for Joe to win with that Claw Slash, and also, now that there's no Floatstone on the bench, it means that a Guzma doesn't automatically win the game because Joe's going to need to get one of these Pokemon out of the active.
Yeah, although this Max Elixir, if Joe decides to put the energy onto Tapu Lele GX, it opens up Guzma once again. Looks like he's just going to play it safe, though. Attach the energy to Buzzwole GX. And yeah, that Field Blower was a big difference maker for Tord, but if Joe can just find Choice Band, Strong Energy, as you said, game is over. Problem is he's attached 1 Choice Band to the bench, Tapu Lele GX. 1 is already discarded. There's probably only 1 left in his whole deck, plus a Strong Energy. Can he find the game-winning cards here? He's got a lot of draws here.
Oh, here we go. That's a regular energy. He doesn't get any of them. He does still have...
Oh, he finds a Floatstone.
Oh, Floatstone's very big here for the potential Guzma play. He did actually, I believe, his 1 card was a Professor Sycamore there earlier on. I think he had a Professor Sycamore Max Elixir to start this turn. So he could play the Professor Sycamore, but that means it would just be the Strong Energy Choice Band. The Guzma play, it looks like it's over now. He's drawn as many cards as he can pre-support. Now he's actually playing the Floatstone on the active Lycanroc, so it looks like he's just giving up the KO this turn and going for a more conservative route for victory.
Yeah, I like this quite a bit. Joe understands he's probably not going to win this turn, but he can just retreat his Lycanroc GX and pretty much get enough energy on 2 different attackers to say, look, if I draw Guzma next turn plus an energy, I'm going to win next turn. If you want to deal with either of these threats, you're going to have to play Guzma, which means I'm going to keep these 7 cards I got off of Professor Sycamore. It's really just an excellent play from Joe to limit what Tord can do on his following turn.
Yeah, it's a brilliant play. Tord, he's got a whole bunch of Pokemon out, but he's got no energy on the board. Joe's got no damage on any of his Pokemon, which means Tord's not taking a KO next turn, and he's still got to take 2 GX KOs to win the game. So Joe here really in a great position. He can afford to be patient. As a side note, he did hit the Strong Energy off the Professor Sycamore, but he didn't hit the Choice Band. So had he gone all in on the Claw Slash, he would have fallen just a little bit short.
Yeah, Joe's going to retreat to Lycanroc GX here. It has the most HP, so it is unlikely to get knocked out. And this just means all he's going to need next turn is Guzma plus energy. Same thing he needed this turn, but now it's a little different. He's got 2 attackers powered up. And game 2 looks like it might be going to our American player. And we could see Tord Reklev having to go to a game 3.
Something he didn't have to do in London.
Yep.
Now, he is going to be looking for an N again this turn. He's got 2 Puzzle of Time in his hand. That's quite nice. He's looking at Joe at the moment and going, oh, he's got quite a few cards in hand. Then he can play some of those down. Then he can play Abyssal Hand with Octillery. Tord's going to feel a lot more confident just putting Joe down to 1 card. He knows there's an Abyssal Hand there, but at least then it forces you to use Abyssal Hand, and then it's off the table. You get 5 cards, but there's no more. And you do see Tord immediately eyeing up that N. It's got to be the supporter of choice here.
The problem for Tord is it's at least 3 turns for him to win. He can't get a knockout this turn on any GX. There's just no possible way. The most he can get is 3 energy onto Gardevoir GX, in which even Guzma on one of those bench Pokemon with all the energy is just going to hit for 180 damage. So he can't get a knockout this turn. He can maybe get one on the following turn, but he doesn't even win with a knockout. So Joe has 3 turns effectively to find energy plus Guzma, and the odds are just not in favor of our two-time international champion.
They really aren't. Of course, another thing to mention here, Tord's got a full bench and Joe's got one prize remaining. Mew is off the table. There will be no Mew taking a one-hit KO on Buzzwole, which is pretty much his only way to get a one-hit KO at the moment, because his only way to open up a bench space is to have something KO'd, which would not be a good thing when his opponent has one prize remaining. So it means that Tord's got to stick with what he's got. His Zoroark, his Tapu Lele, his Gardevoir, and of course his Max Potion, I believe, is still prized. Yep. So his healing options are very limited.
And again, Joe having just basic energy in play has been crucial again. Tord draws that enhanced hammer, but there are no special energy to discard. In a lot of ways, basic energy are better than strong energy in this matchup just because they're so crucial to have in play.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe draws Guzma for the turn.
There's the Max Elixir. If this hits, he will win this second game. This is going to be very big, and we don't see one.
Oh,
we see
no.
Too strong energy. It's always strong energy.
Well, he's got all of his basic energy in play.
Well, because he's been avoiding those enhanced hammers.
All right, so now Joe's going to have to come to a big decision. Does he play Guzma and draw 5 off of Abyssal Hand, or just draw 4 and wait to see what he gets?
Oh, this is a nerve-wracking decision, because you want to see that extra card, but then if you don't hit the energy, then it really does affect.
He's doing it.
He's doing it. All he needs here is going to draw 5 Abyssal Hand, 1 energy. It's
first
the first card.
All right, and Joe evens up the series 1 game apiece. It is possible to beat Tord Reklev.
Turns out Tord can lose games.
And we are going to go to a deciding game 3. I don't know, Ross. Is Joe going to be the one to stop Tord? It's just 1 game apiece. 1 game decides this international championship. We've played, 14 Swiss rounds this weekend, a top 8, a top 4, all these best of 3 matches, and now a single game decides this tournament.
We are, for these 2 players and ourselves, we're in round 17. And of course, we're in game 3 of round 17. I mean, if we go back to that previous game, Joe went first. That was pretty big. Joe had a good start. Tord had a very bad start. Everything went in Joe's favor that game, but similarly, that was a similar story for Tord in game 1. Tord has a big advantage going first in game 3 here, and I think what we're seeing is 2 very even decks piloted by 2 very good players. Tord going first is absolutely going to be a big factor in this game, but similarly, it's going to be big who can have the better start. What I'm interested to see, what happens if Joe gets his Brooklet Hill and hits a Max Elixir and gets some energy, and Tord gets that turn 1 Bridget and a whole bunch of evolutions turn 2. What if they both have that great start and we don't see either player stumble? What happens in that game?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. So does Tord start game number 3 with that crucial turn 1 Bridget? I think that's going to be the big question here as we start game number 3. Of course, if you're watching at home, tell us who you're rooting for. Use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Do you think Joe is going to make the comeback and win the international championships here in Sydney, Australia? Or will it be Tord Reklev winning 3 in a row, an unprecedented pace, 3 international championship events in a row? Nobody else has even won 2 of them, but he's going for his 3rd back to back to back. He's 1 game away.
And if he does win this, I suppose we're going to have to turn all eyes to Brazil because, you know, he might be winning that one as well, or the Latin American Championships. That will be the only one he still needs to win. But of course, we got 1 game left. We are very much in the Oceania region at the moment. And, oh, I'm excited for this game. It really is going to come down to the first couple of turns. We've seen in both games so far, these first couple of turns have been so instructive in showing us how this game is going to go. And both these decks are capable of winning very, very quickly. Tord has his Mew that can take out these Buzzwole. This Gardevoir can come out, take big KOs when it gets some energy. But similarly, in the first couple of turns, that Jet Punch from Joe's Buzzwole is just such a ridiculous attack.
And we'll have to see what Joe decides to go for. Does he try to knock out the Ralts early on? Does he go after Zorua like he did in game number 2? I think a lot of it varies based on the context of the situation. You know, in game 2, we saw Tord didn't play a supporter card on his first turn, and Joe recognized, well, I just need to take out Zorua so he can't trade and get more resources. In game number 1, it was go after Ralts so that he couldn't get enough stage 2 Pokemon in play. Game number 3 is going to decide everything here. I think a lot of it's going to come down to Tord's opening hand, as well as what's in his prize cards. He has those crucial things like Max Potion and Mew EX that can be difference makers.
Well, the good news for Tord is I can see a Bridget in his opening hand, and he has
Oh,
its active.
oh my goodness.
That
Mew and Max Potion. Those are 2 of the biggest cards in this matchup.
That's going to be huge.
Oh, but 3 basic energy for Joe and a Rockruff. Bad prize cards on both sides, but here we go. The last game, and Ross, as you said, Tord is going to open up with his trademark, turn 1 Bridget.
This is why you play free Bridget, why you play free Tapu Lele, while you play free Ultra Ball. You got 10 outs on turn 1 to try and get that turn 1 Bridget. And here we're just going to see, as always, a mixture of routes and Zorua. Of course, you don't really want that Zorua sitting in the active at the beginning of the game. Jet Punch KOs it way too easily. But if you can set up a nice bench of Pokemon behind it, sometimes you can afford to give up that prize while still carrying on and win the game.
And I think Tord is going to take in a big gulp after seeing what's in his prize cards here. I think one of the first things he looks for in this matchup is Mew EX. He's going to say, uh-oh, well, that's not an option. Maybe look for the Max Potion and say, oh, no, that's not here either. This is going to have to be a different game plan than what he's used to. But if anyone can pull it off, it is Tord.
Yeah, that is going to be what he's looking for. And, I mean, good players like Tord, they always spend this first search. It takes a little bit longer. They want to see what's prized. By now, Tord has a really good indication of what's in his prizes, and it's going to inform how he plays the rest of this game. And we do see 2 routes and a Zorua coming down here. And now he does have a Floatstone in hand. Might we see him retreating into a route, giving Joe a slightly more difficult route to getting that turn 1 KO?
That is a good question. We'll see what Tord decides to do. You saw his hand. It is close to being very good. He has Gardevoir GX in hand and an Ultra Ball. No rare candy quite yet. You know, any number of top decks can get him an excellent turn 2, whether he finds a Mallow or Tapu Lele GX or rare candy. Any number of things can turn his hand into a monster, but he's just going to attach Double Colorless to the Ralts and pass the turn, and now it's on Joe. He's going second. He can't afford to not attack on this first turn, but he's going to start it off in an excellent way with that Brooklet Hill.
He does have the Remoraid in the active. He'll be looking for something like a Floatstone to get that Remoraid out of the active. Does play free in his deck, so he's got them there. He can try and find them. And Buzzwole here is going to take a super easy KO. Tord choosing to leave that Zorua in the active. He's got a double colorless energy on that benched Rolls. And if he's able to evolve that quite quickly, get another couple of energy on it, that could be a quite quick route to victory. If Tord could get what I like to call a giant Gardevoir GX going, lots of energy.
That's the technical term for it, yeah.
I believe that is a technical term. That's what somebody told me. So it's going to be, you know, Tord's thinking, I don't mind this Zorua going down. We know he's got the Gardevoir in hand, a Mallow, a rare candy. There are options here to try and make sure he gets that Gardevoir. And if he does, we've not seen him really do it in either game so far. We did see a Gardevoir coming out, but it made little difference. But then again, we didn't see the turn 1 double colorless energy on a route. This could be signaling Tord saying, well, you know what? I think I can just get a big Gardevoir and just roll through Joe's deck with that.
So Joe misses the max elixir there. It's going to make it more difficult for him to get this turn 1 attack. And plays Professor Sycamore. So off of this, he's going to have to find some way to get an energy and get Remoraid out of the active spot as well. If he doesn't, he's going to miss the turn 1 attack. So missing that max elixir removed the out of simply attaching an energy and retreating. Looks like he has no way to get the turn 1 attack. He might just have to attach energy and pass, which is a terrible spot to be in when you're going second with this Buzzwole deck. Yeah,
this is not where Joe wanted to be at all. He was thinking, well, I'm going second. I'll get a cheeky KO on something like a Zorua, and at least I'm going to be up by a prize. Tord's now thinking, great, I can evolve the active Zorua, maybe find another Zoroark to pop on the bench, maybe get my Gardevoir. I've got time here just to go and evolve all of my Pokemon.
Tord's draw for the turn was Zoroark GX. This is one of the cards that could have made his hand very explosive, and I think we're going to see a very good turn 2. He's got Ultra Ball. He can find Tapu Lele GX. He can Mallow, get any 2 cards. I think we might even see Remoraid go down on the second turn. Tord is beginning game number 3 with another excellent start.
Yeah, this is absolutely great for Tord here. He can maybe get that Gardevoir out. He will need a rare candy and an energy. He's got a float stone, which is nice.
It's like he actually kept the N in hand, so looks like he's just eyeing up Tapu Lele GX. I thought maybe he was going to play N instead, but nope. Just going for good old Mallow.
Yeah, there's the rare candy double colorless energy. So it looks like he's not going to attack with the Gardevoir this turn. He can get the KO with a riotous beating. He's popping a double colorless energy and the rare candy at the top. That means he's going to get the Gardevoir out. It means he's got the double colorless energy on the Zoroark, which means he will get the KO. And if you're Joe, if you see Tord take the first prize, that is not what you want in this game. That is the opposite of what you're expecting.
Tord completely empties his hand and takes a knockout on the second turn of the game. This is actually somewhat risky. If Joe could manage to knock out the Zoroark GX this turn, Tord would be left with just a single card in hand and no access to trade. The problem is there's already a choice band on this Buzzwole GX, so he can't put a float stone on it and go off with some big max elixir turn. If he could, though, it would just be such a big swing in the game, taking down Zoroark GX when Tord has just one card in hand.
It would be huge, but he doesn't play Field Blower, so he can't get rid of his own choice band, and he's not going to be able to retreat it, really, you've got to imagine. I mean, there is a potential here that we see a double max elixir onto a Sudowoodo and a manual attachment on the active Buzzwole to manually retreat. I think the reason why Tord was so confident going down to 0 cards in hand is because he looked at Joe's setup and went, the chances of him actually killing my Zoroark are so tiny here. Even if he plays a Guzma to get the Buzzwole out the active, well, then the Zoroark goes to the bench. I think he felt very comfortable going down to a 0 card hand.
Yeah, and really, what else could he do? You got to take these opportunities when they present themselves. But even with just one Zoroark GX in play, Tord could be in a rough spot if he doesn't draw the right cards. Sure, he's going to get a good look at some cards with trade, but if he doesn't find a supporter card here or another Zoroark GX, he's going to be perhaps in some trouble. But he does find a second Zoroark GX, so he can trade again. Did he find any supporter card?
Also going to be looking for Fairy Energy. That Gardevoir just became the best attacker on his field, but as it stands at the moment, he's only got double colorless. He doesn't have any Fairy Energy. An Infinite Force, it's multiplied for your energy, but you've got to start with a Fairy.
I think Tord was trying to find that Mew EX, but it is in his prize cards, so that's not an option. He does have Tapu Lele GX in hand, so even though he began the turn with one card in hand, he can quickly turn that into a Professor Sycamore and reload his hand. And once again, Tord finding the right cards when he needs them, but actually going for the Guzma.
Love this play. This is a great play. You've got to think he's going after that Rockruff.
Absolutely.
It's got a strong energy on. It's got a choice band on. And Tord knows he's got a full bench. He knows that Gardevoir is a great card, but it is currently being threatened by a dangerous rogue. So what do? Well, you play a Guzma so you can KO a Rockruff.
And Tord probably doesn't know this, but Joe's second Rockruff is in his prize card. So, and Tord does find the Fairy Energy as well. So taking out this Rockruff is taking away the biggest threat on Joe's side with no immediate way to respond. But if Joe can get Max Elixir, Energy, and Floatstone, he does have Buzzwole's GX attack available. The Absorption GX will deal with this Gardevoir, so this is a major point in this third and final game. If Joe can find the cards to knock out Gardevoir GX, Tord's Mew EX is still in his prize cards. Tord will have no fast way to answer a fully charged Buzzwole GX.
No, and we had a quick cheeky gander at his prizes a minute ago, and you know what? It's at the bottom. The way Tord is taking his prizes, and we're creatures of habit. We tend to take our prizes in the same way, in a nice methodical way. That Mew's at the bottom. That Mew is not going to be coming out in the next couple of prizes, so Tord really has to be and Tord doesn't know where the Mew is. Tord will be playing this game at the moment, and to be perfectly honest with you, it looks very much like Tord is just going to be playing this game without Mew.
We actually see the strong energy going on to that Sudowoodo, maybe going for a future watch and learn. And I don't think, even with a Max Elixir and Choice Band, I don't know if that's enough for a knockout using Infinite Force on this Gardevoir, but maybe Joe wanting to use a one prize attacker in this scenario, forcing Tord into an awkward situation. But it all comes down to, does he hit max elixir here? Oh, he does get Guzma. That's going to be a pretty big jet punch here. Getting a 3-prize knockout if he wants it.
Yeah, he can KO the active Zoroark, he can KO the benched Ralts. He's actually going to go up by a prize here, and we see a similar thing in the previous game. Joe's really manipulating this Jet Punch here to take some crucial KOs and multiple KOs. Now, Tord's still got a Zoroark on his field, he's still got a Gardevoir, but he's then just got 2 Tapu Leles. It's not a perfect bench situation for him at the moment.
And you can see there is a potential. Oh, Joe's actually just going to put the 30 damage onto the Gardevoir GX, trying to make it a little easier to use Watch and Learn for the knockout. This is where, if Tord finds Enhanced Hammer, it's going to be a big swing in the game. I think he's going to try to do 2 things this turn. Enhanced Hammer the strong energy and get enough energy to knock out this Buzzwole, go down to 2 prize cards, and force Joe to have an answer.
Yeah, that would be absolutely big if he could take away the threat of that Sudowoodo while taking out the threat of the Buzzwole. He'd leave Joe with 0 energy left on the field. And of course, if he can get enough energy on his Gardevoir and then not lose it next turn, then he could actually be in a position where just next turn he announces Infinite Force and wins a championship.
So we do see just the Secret Spring onto the Ralts though. So looks like he's probably not going to go for the knockout on the active Buzzwole GX. See what he gets off of this Professor Sycamore for 7 cards. Tord, once again, just drawing through his deck seamlessly. This is what Zoroark GX and its trade ability offers you. But it is worth noting he is down to just 1 Zoroark GX in play. He doesn't have those 2 or 3 or 4 trades we've seen late in the game that Tord has done throughout this tournament. So perhaps later in the game, an N could disrupt him to the point where he can't find what he needs.
Absolutely. I was sitting here doing some maths there. I believe with a double colorless energy choice band, we would still have seen a KO on that Buzzwole despite the Secret Spring onto the routes, but it doesn't look like he's got it here. He does have a Field Blower to get rid of a couple of tools on Joe's side of the field, which is very nice. But yeah, we just see an Infinite Force for 120 here, 4 energy, 4 times 30, 120. Not a bad hit there, but it is giving more time to Joe to, really find an answer to that Gardevoir GX.
And now Joe has to figure out what he wants to do. That second Rockruff being in his prize cards is huge. If he could get a Lycanroc GX up and running, that could be the game-winning attacker he needs. But the first Rockruff was knocked out, the second one in his prize cards, and he has not drawn his Rescue Stretcher yet, so unable to set up that big, dangerous Rogue GX that could be the swing in this game. Prize cards a big factor for both players.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players being really punished by their prizes. Now, we do see a Max Elixir coming down here, and every time there's a strong energy in there. But you cannot, we said it many a time, you cannot accelerate a strong energy with a Max Elixir. That must be getting frustrating for Joe at this point, that every time he's like, that's the wrong energy. That is the price you pay for these great strong energy cards. They mean you do 20 extra damage, but special energy are a much bigger liability than basic.
Yeah, so Joe's got to be frustrated at this point. Tord has to be breathing in a sigh of relief that there was no Max Elixir on that turn. And does Joe have any way to perhaps move this Buzzwole GX out of the active spot, prevent Tord from getting a knockout? If he had a Guzma here, perhaps he could do some big damage to the Zoroark GX and then knock out the Ralts, but as it stands, he might just have to Jet Punch, and that's going to put Tord in an excellent position as we enter the final stages of this third and final game of the tournament.
Yeah, taking a KO on that Buzzwole would be big. I mean, Tord clearly is hoping, come on, if I KO the Buzzwole, maybe I'll take Mew from my prizes. And if he can grab Mew, that would be amazing, but it's unlikely he's going to be able to. We do see that Ralts going down now to that second, that bench damage from the Jet Punch. And he's actually put Joe on an odd number of prizes with only GXs on the field. So Joe would still need to take 2 GX KOs and play what we call the 7 prize game. As it stands, in order to win this, Tord could be tempted to put another Zorua down to maybe have some late game Zoroark, but that would be risky given how easily it would go down to a Jet Punch.
At the same time, you can put yourself in a position where if there's enough energy on Gardevoir GX, you put it where if they don't deal with Gardevoir, they lose. So if he puts down Zorua, it doesn't even really matter. If your opponent plays Guzma and goes after Zorua and ignores your Gardevoir GX, you're pretty happy with that. That means you've probably won the game anyway. So it's almost free putting down one Zorua down here. I think we'll probably see it from Tord, but we do see Mallow. And again, prize cards are going to be huge. Max Potion is prized for Tord. Mew EX is prized for Tord. It's going to force him to make a different play here. I could see him perhaps retreating and using Tapu Lele GX to attack.
Yeah, that could be one option here to get the KO. With a choice band and a double colorless energy, it would do enough. And the other thing here, of course, is that he could go for an enhanced hammer, maybe.
Yes.
Enhanced hammer could be absolutely huge, getting rid of that Sudowoodo. But then again, like we've seen in previous games with Tord, he sometimes uses these Tapu Lele to take key KOs, so that Sudowoodo comes up and goes, oh, copying Energy Drive isn't actually that good right now. Whereas a KO with Infinite Force, it's a good thing to copy. KO of Riotous Beating, good thing to copy. And it looks like that's exactly where Tord is going with this.
So just 70 HP left on that Buzzwole GX, which means double colorless and choice band will get a knockout. Joe's going to have a hard time responding, and we do see the 2 Puzzle of Time from our Norwegian player. He's going to get back double colorless energy, and there it is, the enhanced hammer. That might put him one step closer to victory, as Sudowoodo all of a sudden is a more difficult option to use. The choice band going on, and Tord can feel that. He knows he's closing in on his 3rd straight international championship.
And you see the excitement there. I love that a player who's been there and done it all at this stage, still so excited when he sees that he's got this big KO. He knows this is a turning point in the game. Getting rid of his opponent's special energy, taking a big KO on the Buzzwole. He can feel that this is a turning point in the game. And you see his players matching that. I love when we see these veteran players who are still clearly so excited about playing the game. And a Secret Spring onto Gardevoir, none too shabby.
Still no Mew EX for Tord, though. It is in his prize cards. So if Joe can pull off some play here where he goes Max Elixir, attach, and Guzma for the Gardevoir GX, Tord will have no response ready. He is down to 2 prize cards, though. And Joe has to have that Mew EX weighing on his mind. He can't know it's prized for Tord. So this is going to be a very nerve-wracking turn for Joe. But if he can pull off a miracle here, I don't think Tord's going to have the cards to respond immediately.
No, that Gardevoir is the key here. That Gardevoir actually is in range now of KOing a Buzzwole with a Fairy Energy double colorless choice band on a single energy Buzzwole. That would do 210. That would be enough to get the KO here. So Tord really thinking, and that Secret Spring last turn, absolutely huge. He now has got the minimum number of energy on Gardevoir now so that he could take a big KO next turn. And of course, a big KO next turn, that's a championship winning KO.
Tord did find Max Potion from his prizes, though, so any sort of Jet Punch here won't be good enough. Joe uses Abyssal Hand and finds 2 terrible cards. His hand is just full of energy and Lycanroc GX, neither of which he can play at this point. He's got a full house, Ross, but that's not a good hand to have in this situation.
No, this is not what you need. Absolutely. It's very upsetting for Joe. He knows that Tord has a potential game-winning play next turn. And, of course, putting that second energy on the Buzzwole now means 1 fewer energy for Tord that he would need in order to win this game. And as both players, you know, put their benches nice and visible for us, just a retreat to the Regirock. And now Tord has a turn where he could potentially win everything.
This is it. If Tord has double colorless and an energy or choice band plus Guzma, he simply wins the game. Even double colorless fairy and choice band would allow him to knock out this Regirock EX.
That would be enough.
So he's going to take a look through the deck and see what is available to him with this Brooklet Hill. Now, he only has 1 trade, so it's not like he has access to infinite resources here, but there's a good chance we see our 3-time international champion this turn.
And the thing to remember is, now that Regirock is in the active with 180 HP, Tord doesn't need a Guzma. Double colorless, Fairy Energy, Choice Band. If he can pull off those 3 cards, now as it stands at the moment, his hand is not phenomenal. He does have a Guzma, but he is really missing energy. There was 1 Puzzle of Time there, but probably not a second, or he would have slammed it down.
Also, doesn't seem like he has any way to draw extra cards either. He had a Guzma in hand, but don't believe he had anything else. Did he draw 2 Puzzle of Time off of this trade?
I think he actually might. Double Puzzle of Time is going to come down. And there's the energy. Has he actually, he needs a choice.
Got the Guzma in hand, though. He can go after that Buzzwole GX.
And Torn is your 3-time international champion. He takes down that bench Buzzwole, and he's done it. What we said at the beginning of the tournament, Kyle, he's actually managed to pull it off.
Unbelievable. That's all you can say. Joe put up an excellent fight. He did everything he could, but his hand was just full of nothing at the end. But at the end of the weekend, the improbable has happened. Tord Reklev has won 3 international championships in a row. I can't even imagine how he's feeling right now.
Thanks, guys. I'm down here with our 3-time international champion, Tord Reklev. How does it feel?
Amazing. This is insane.
Well, we were watching that game coming in. You actually prized the Mew, one of your biggest pieces, and you were able to work without it. How did you feel knowing it was the last prize coming down to those crucial turns?
Definitely made my job a lot harder. I kind of had to charge up a big Gardevoir to take knockouts and take a lot of 2-hit knockouts and couldn't really push him. But he couldn't hit all his max elixirs and couldn't put up too much aggression on me, and I was able to knock out the Rockruff with an energy, just stay ahead. And in the end, I even traded for 2 puzzles for the game, so I guess I was just super lucky as well.
Yeah, that works out for you. Game 2, it looked pretty bad. You didn't have that opening turn, Bridget. Your opponent was able to get so many early knockouts, and it didn't really look like you were going to be able to come back, and eventually you did lose that game. How do you reposition yourself and get ready for that Game 3, knowing that this could be your 3rd international championship?
I try to not think about it too much and just play my game and focus on doing the right plays. And hopefully, if you do everything correct, it will work out in the end.
And finally, I know that coming into this event, we've already interviewed you a few times. You were telling me that you aren't feeling too well. You've been sick. How much sleep have you gotten? How do you go through in a tournament like this when you're not feeling the best?
I don't really know. I struggled a lot day 1. I had way too many matches go to time because I couldn't focus and tied some matches I shouldn't. And yeah, but I felt better eventually as the event went on. So in the end now, I felt I could play pretty optimally.
Well, I think you played pretty optimally as well. Let's give it up one more time, everybody. Tord Reklev. Casters, back over to you.